Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Wednesday, June 7th, 2023. Got a good show for you guys. So, anyway, first thing I want to address, is I want to talk about a question that was asked on my Delta Report channel. You can find it on YouTube by entering in Delta Report. But what the question was from Sarah N. And she said, what do you think the consequences are when a feared situation comes about? Well, first I got to tell you guys what the feared situation is. Is the wars on Earth escalating into possibly a nuclear exchange? Or a much greater, wider war, possibly a World War III? And what I was talking about was the dam breakage and how water's all gonna leak out from those nuclear reactors in the show over the next few months. And they're possibly not going to be able to cool the rods, the spent fuel rods, which could lead to nuclear contamination over a very wide area. Think maybe Chernobyl times 6. Okay, so I mean, this is a situation. I can't see them fixing this situation. That's what I was talking about on my show. And that, of course, if there's a big, large nuclear leak, of course, all the countries are going to want to try to stop that. And this is a war zone, and you just can't move in there to try to stop it without escalating the situation immensely. And so that's what I was referring to. This could escalate us into launch or catapult us into World War III. And so, to try to answer the question, what do you think the consequences are when the feared situation comes about? Well, it could be that the world burns with a nuclear war. And she says, what helps then? What can help us then? Well, what would help is if we didn't go to nuclear war. Well, how does that come about? Well, I'm going to use an illustration for you guys. Picture if a household had a couple children and adults, adults and children. Well, the politicians being like the children, the adults are like the people. See, the people elected the politicians. They chose them and put them in office. The people are the ones who give the politicians their authority, not the other way around. They're elected politicians. And, so the people are actually the one. They don't want war. Politicians want war. So war in the modern age, the nuclear age, is like this box of matches. And yes, the children will burn the house down. How do you stop them? Well, I look at a peaceful way of stopping them. Because the world needs peace, not just peace from a stoppage of all these wars, but peace so that the politicians will bring about peace. The world leaders will bring about peace. These are career politicians. And what are they frightened of most? The people telling them, no, we're not going to vote for you next time, en masse. The people saying, we're not going to vote for you next time. We're not going to keep you in office unless you stop these wars. Because we don't want these wars. Just think back a few years ago how all the people were getting along good. People were traveling to Russia, shaking hands. People were hugging one another as they got off the airplane. Everybody on the world, even the political leaders. Putin was going to the big summit meetings that they go to, where they fly on their jets to the big summit meetings and they eat big dinners and go to expensive 5-star hotels and stuff. And they all hug and shake and everything. Hey, shake hands and hug and everything. This is the way it was just a couple years ago. Just a few years ago. China was getting along great with Russia. Russia was getting along great with the United States. China was getting along great with the United States. Everybody was getting along. And all of a sudden, the politicians get a beef. It's their beef. It's not the people's beef. They're the children with the matches. And I'm not advocating violence. I'm advocating peace. I'm advocating a peaceful resolution by the people telling the politicians, but in a peaceful way, no, we don't want you to burn the house down. We don't want you to burn the world down. We want to raise our children in peace and security. We don't want this. That's the way out of this. She says, what helps then? That's what helps. But we're in a race right now, because the politicians are getting more angry, and different countries are getting more angry at other countries, and they're starting to have this beef between themselves. But they're in control of these weapons, these massive weapons of destruction. Okay, so that's enough coverage of that little bit, and we're going to move on. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Final stand for 500,000 French protesters. They take to the streets again for pension reform. This is another case of the political structure just sitting back and let them do what they will. They're basically like, let them eat cake. Let them do what they will. We're not gonna listen. Just let them do whatever they're gonna do, and they'll go home after a while. We'll wait them out, and they'll go home after a while. They'll beat on their drums or whatever. They'll march in the street, and then they'll go home after they get tired of walking in the hot sun. This is just basically more of the same. Politicians not listening. It needs to be. See, this is 500,000 people, but there's a lot more than 500,000 people in Paris. I mean, in France. If all the French citizens got together and said, hey, you know what? We want something. You better listen to us. Oh, yeah, they would listen then. If their political career was on the line, and they knew that they were never going to get in office again, never hold a job in politics again, if the people let them know that, then something would be done. But until then, if it's just a minority of the people, not the majority, and a minority be anything less than 50%, then nothing's going to happen. It has to be majority. It has to be majority rules. It has to be over 50% of the people say, no, we don't want you to blow up the world. No. Sorry, but no, we don't want that. We don't want that for ourselves. We don't want that for our children. We do not want to be incinerated in an atomic fire. I'm sorry, no. Anyway, I'm getting caught back on that first thing I was talking about. So here we go. We got Canadian wildfires that are tens of millions are under the smoke. Look at what the smoke looks like in the bigger cities in the Northeast. Now, someplace here, I've got a thing that shows exactly where the smoke is. Let me see. Here it is, tracking the smoke. As you can see, the smoke is pouring down into the Northeast. New York is really bad, and it's not going to get any better. It's all the way down into the Carolinas, even in the north part of Georgia and Alabama, the smoke. It's in the Carolinas, but it's not as bad as it is up and around New York City. Up and around New York City, it's just choking. That's where the smoke's going right now. So, what we got going on with that? And now, here's another story I wanted to talk about. Here, the WHO, World Health Organization, they're going to adopt a COVID-19 vaccine passport, a part of the new Global Health Certificate. Global Health Certificate. This means everybody on Earth will have to have this vaccine passport. Well, how could they get something like that in? Everybody, you imagine they would have a biometric system on every door you enter in every place. Hotels, a box on the door. You want to open the door? You got to flash some sort of a signal to the biometrics to open the door. A grocery store, you got to flash a biometrics. Even going to get gas in your car, you go to the gas station, a biometrics thing or the pump won't work. They'll have it everywhere. And the only way you'll be able to get everything to function for you in society would be to flash your new vaccine passport. And all of a sudden the door would open up. Now you can go into the grocery store and get groceries. This is the kind of system. How would they get a system like that in? Well, they're gonna need to shove a few more pandemics out there and get the people all frightened again, and then people will say yes if there's enough pandemics going on. So what's the next one that's probably coming down the line? Probably some sort of avian flu. You know, that's probably the next one in line, or maybe something else. Maybe some new uh, lab created Ebola or something like that. God knows what they'll come up with next. But they're going to get this thing in. This is their plan. They got to get this thing in because this is part of the greater new restructuring of what they want done in the world. So I mean, just moving us toward the goalpost. The goalpost is this 1984 style dystopian society where they're totally in control, and they basically have some sort of big implant on the top of our head, and whenever we don't do what they want us to do, they just push a button, and we go, okay, master, yes, we'll do whatever you want. That's it. I mean, this is their dystopic dream. It's they're going to be sitting on top, and they have these horde army that works for them, almost like a human version of a robot, plus robots, and a vastly reduced population. Well, they're already going to get that. I mean, because things have already changed. The worm's already turned. The global population's peaked. It's going to start dropping rapidly now at this point. And even if they left things alone, probably in 50 years from now, we'd probably be only dealing with 2 billion people on Earth. Even if they just stop right now, don't do any more, don't launch any nukes, don't do anything of this other stuff that they all got planned, we're probably only looking at like probably an 80% drop in the world's population. One of the things I'm looking at very carefully, and why I'm saying this, is not just pollution and everything else, but fertility counts around the world. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, falling off a cliff. And plus, I mean, doesn't a lot of people just say, well, I'm not going to have a baby and bring them up in this kind of environment? People think about things like that, especially in the Western countries. Anyway, moving on. I'm rambling on a little bit here. Let me see if I covered all the stories that I wanted to cover. Oh, yeah, there's a UFO whistleblower out there. And I was watching this psychologist analyze the UFO whistleblower for body language. And what he come up with, he watched very carefully, and this guy, I guess, works for courts and stuff. I don't know exactly what he does, but he said something about he examines. I don't know if he works for courts, but he examines court footage and stuff to see if people are lying, but he's very good at it. Anyway, he took a look at this UFO whistleblower, and it was inconclusive, basically. I watched the whole episode. It was basically inconclusive. Whether he didn't say he was lying, he didn't say he was telling the truth. He asked people, what do you think? But at any rate, this is an enormous story right here. And so we're getting whistleblowers on this. But, I'm not new to this information. I mean, we're talking about probably over 30 years ago, I was studying the Roswell case, and I was looking into information on it on the internet and stuff, and finding when the internet was still early days, I mean, back before the year 2000. I was reading books on this, uh, on about this thing. I've studied this extensively, and I basically came to the conclusion that, yeah, way before this whistleblower, I came to the conclusion that, yeah, there's something to this. Too many people, and especially people in that are very, on the level people, have seen and witnessed things that they cannot understand. Just too much. If it was evidence in the courtroom, the evidence would be absolutely overwhelming. But for some reason, it's very hard for people to get their head around, and myself included, to get their head around this topic. Even though in the back of our minds we know, hey, it's probably true. It's hard to get your head around it. Anyway, we're moving on here. Let me see if I covered all the stories. The stock market today. What's it doing? Well, the Dow Jones is up 10 points on the day. 33,573. Sitting there looking at that. Cryptocurrency today. What we're looking at is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going through a bit of volatility right now. 26,775 right now. And Ethereum at 1863. It's going through some... It was smooth sailing there for a long time. No volatility. I did a show saying how stable it was, and then boom, the volatility hits. So now we're up and down like a yo-yo. So it's not really stable right now, Silver price today. It's down a penny at 23.56. Now that's stability for you. Gold's at 19.59, and it's down $4. Now we're at the low ebb right now for gold and silver. We're probably at the bottom right now. Generally, markets will go along, and when they're in a bear cycle, they'll find bottom about 3, 4, maybe in a gold and silver market even more. They'll find these bottoms. They got to get done going through that process before you're going to have your big raise in price. Your bull market hits. And there's nothing like a gold and silver bull market, and it's just as big and powerful as a crypto bull market. And I think that it's coming. It's not that far away. Taking a look at there's the smoke again. I'm all mixed up in my charts today. Taking a look at bonds and rates today, and we're looking at today at rising yields on the long end. Well, the 30 years unchanged at 3.87, and the U.S. 10 years at 3.71. It's up 1 basis points today. Checking the U.S. dollar index today, it's at 103.94, and it's going down a little bit today. So anyway, guys, thank you for listening to my show. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.